Can you miss what you never?
So you've decided to do a long distance hike and you want to know what to wear on your feet. This was a big topic of conversation when we walked the 2,000 kilometers from John O'Groats to Land's End, and a lot of people kept saying, what are you wearing? Why are you wearing that? And what do you think of it? So today I'm going to address why we started wearing sandals, hiking sandals, what I thought of them. We ended up in hiking boots, but did I really like them? Our Keen hiking sandals, we've worn them now for close on 5 years. Not the same pair, I've had a second pair. 2 pairs though, still got them. But why did we decide to walk from John O'Groats to Land's End in open sandals rather than the traditional hiking boots? We got almost no blisters at all in over 500 miles of hiking. The small blister that I actually got was on the very early stages of the walk. And bear in mind, my sandals at that time were brand new and I was sort of breaking them in, but also we were up to our knees in water in the bogs of the Highlands of Scotland. Yeah, I got a little blister on the back of one foot, but it was pretty much the only one that I got, and it healed up pretty quickly. I think it's important to note though, the reason we choose to wear open sandals is because I haven't worn socks and closed-in shoes for close to, I don't know, 5, maybe even 10 years or so. So my feet have got used to wearing open shoes. The circulation in my feet is really good. My feet don't get cold, for example, because the blood in my body is used to going down to the extremities of my toes. I do think if you actually cover your feet in socks and boots, you start getting bad circulation, because what happens is when your body needs to cool down, the last place it's going to send blood to is the tips of your toes, because they're wrapped up in socks and boots. So over time, over many years, you start to get poor circulation in the little capillaries that go out to the skin on your feet. I don't get any of those problems, so my feet are used to being in sandals. There's a lot of debate there about ankle support. I think if you tend to support your ankles a great deal, you'll end up with weaker ankles. Our ankles are pretty strong, so we were never really concerned. I would say if you're going to walk a long through walk and it's going to be on rough terrain, I highly recommend sandals. I'm not talking about your sort of Jesus sandals here. I'm talking about good, strong hiking sandals. And that's why we chose to go with the Keen. They're not a sponsor. They don't support us in any way. We pay for all our own footwear. But I've been used to Keen for a long time now. I really like them. I will leave some Amazon links down below if you want to check out these particular sandals. Please go ahead and do so. The other great thing about sandals is that you don't have to pack socks. If you take boots, you have to take socks with you, and if you're in cold climates, they've got to be thick socks and you've got to have at least a couple of pairs, and they get damp every single day, and keeping them dry and not too smelly is a big issue. When we were wearing our sandals, there was none of those issues. The sandals dried out in barely half an hour outside the tent, even if they were soaking wet. So what am I wearing today, right now? What would be my choice? I'm just out here, it's a cold day, it's winter time in the UK. You guessed it right, I've got my Keens on. I mean, this is the shoe that I go to time and time again whenever I go out, whether it's summertime or wintertime. Actually, if you can guarantee that you won't have continuous boggy wet weather, then I would highly recommend that you wear sandals. I just think they're great, but I'd say get used to wearing them first. You know, put them on, wear them round for at least a month or so, get really comfortable in sandals. If they feel great to you, go with it. Now, when should you go into boots? A lot of people said to us, why aren't you wearing boots? You know, proper hiking boots, waterproof hiking boots. And so eventually we succumbed, because actually the British weather was pretty grim. It was wet, it was boggy, and we were finding that our sandals were constantly drenched because we were up and down in sort of boggy marshland and boggy heather. And once I had these boots, I think they're here hanging on the side of my bag, Once we had these boots, I really couldn't take them off because otherwise I had to carry them like this, banging around on the side of my backpack. So I had to sort of stop using the sandals altogether, and the rest of the walk that we did, the second half of John O'Groats to Land's End, maybe about 600 to 800 miles, was done in the boots. We had to get a couple of pairs of socks. It was enough. Do go for merino wool if you're going to buy socks. I really think they're great. They don't get smelly too quickly. We found every day, at the end of the day, Michelle and I both found that our boots were damp just from the moisture, from condensation, from the sweat from your feet. The socks got damp and we had to dry them out every single night and change into fresh socks every day. The other thing was that our feet started to get soft because of the moisture inside the boots. The feet got sort of soft and a little bit weak, and there was a time when I thought we were going to get more blisters, but that we didn't really get any extra blisters, to be honest. So maybe one more blister between my toes at one stage. I think that might have been because something was stuck inside the boot and it was rubbing up against the toe, but that healed up super quick. Oh, my hands are cold today. It's really chilly out here. So although we did the second half of the walk in boots, I wish we could have continued in the sandals. At some points when we were in cities or walking along the canals, I really wanted to put the sandals back on, but I didn't really want these great big boots hanging off the bag. So it was a bit of a catch-22. We wore the boots all the way to the end. I would recommend hiking in almost any conditions at all, that hiking sandals are the way to go. They're just so much more comfortable. They're great grip underfoot. If they do get damp, they dry very quickly. But if you're going to hike in the UK in the winter time and it's wet, and it's really wet, up in the Pennine Way or the Great Glen Way or any of the many ways that we walked over the last 3 months, probably you want some good hiking boots that are waterproof or at least water resistant. What can I say? I mean, it's a debate. I'm sure people are going to put their 2 penneth in, and this isn't really meant to be taken as advice. This is what we did. The only reason we swapped out was a little bit through pressure from people telling us we should do, and a little bit because the water was just endlessly and continuously up and above our ankles, and it got a bit tiring after a while just having soaking wet sandals all the time. We were lucky. We walked 1,200 miles, 2,000 kilometers. I know I keep saying both, but it sort of helps some people to know what sort of distance. It took us 3 months and we barely had any foot problems at all in both the sandals and the boots. If we do the Camino de Santiago, if it ever opens up and we can do it, I'll definitely be doing that in sandals. If we do walk and hike some of the trails in Japan, I'll be doing that in sandals as well. And like I say, it's no sponsor for us. We used Keen Sandals and we used SPRAYWAY boots, both of which I've been super happy with. I will leave some links down if you want to check them out. Let me just show you the boots, by the way. So these are the SPRAYWAY boots that we took, and these have done at least maybe 500, 600 miles. Now, I did mention about merino socks, and they're nice and thick and warm, but you're going to need at least a couple of pairs because each day at the end of the day these are going to be soggy and wet. And can I explain to you how we kept these dry on the walk? Yeah, we had 2 pairs of merino socks, but at the end of each day, as I say, the moisture from your feet made them very damp. So what we would do is take 1 pair of socks off and lay these under our sleeping bags, the damp socks, and the socks for the next day would go in our pillowcases, our stuffed pillowcases in the tent. So in the morning, the fresh socks were nice and dry and warm. And these being up against the fabric of the sleeping bag meant that they actually dried out overnight to a point that we could stuff them in the bag and then turn them over, so we'd actually roll them over the next day. These would then be the fresh ones for the following day. And because they're merino, the bacteria that makes the smell in socks doesn't tend to grow in merino wool, so you can actually keep a pair of socks like these going for several days without having to give them a wash. Yeah, too much information. Now you do have to remember that the waterproof section of these sort of boots only comes up to where the tongue joins the body here. So if water gets over there, you're going to get wet, very wet boots. And these are a mid-length hiking boot. There you are, there's the hiking boots. So pro tip for if you're hiking in muddy conditions, don't let your trouser leg hang on the outside of your boot. Otherwise, each time this foot passes this foot, it'll rub mud onto the side of the trousers and they get really mucky. And if you're long hiking, so just tuck them in like that. Get used to doing that every time you put your boots on. If you're just going for a day walk, you can put the trousers in the wash, the pants, whatever you call them, in the wash. But if you're doing a long hike, as we were, having loads of mud on the bottom of your trouser legs is a real pain because you've nowhere to clean it. And then you have to bring all that dirt into your little tent at night. We've now got the boot on, and trust me, I was more than satisfied with these boots. They were great. So those of you that said we should be wearing boots, you weren't wrong, you weren't right. Loved you all. Michelle and I will be heading off somewhere a bit warmer soon. So I don't think the boots are coming with me, but the sandals definitely are.
If you follow the road till it leads you back home, you'll find that the answer is yes.